Welcome to an alternate past. Today's video is, what if the Protestant Reformation had never happened? Imagine a world where the Protestant Reformation never occurred, a world where the Catholic Church retained absolute authority over the spiritual and political realms of Europe. Picture this. No Martin Luther, no 95 Thesis, no spark to ignite the religious, cultural, and political upheaval that would come to define the modern Western world. In this alternate timeline, the Roman Catholic Church would have maintained its iron grip on the soul of civilization, unchallenged and absolute. Without the Reformation, the brutal inquisitions might have ramped up to unprecedented levels, rooting out any whispers of dissent with ruthless efficiency. Heresy trials could have filled our history books with countless tales of execution by fire, torture, and forced confessions. The grip of fear instilled by the Church would be complete. Families torn apart, neighbors turning against each other to avoid suspicion. The number of suppressed voices longing for intellectual and spiritual freedom would be immeasurable. Consider the unchallenged sale of indulgences, a practice where people bought their way out of sin, growing completely rampant. The corrupt indulgence system would have bled the common people dry, reducing the poor to destitution in their desperate attempts to secure a place in heaven. Wealth gushed upwards to Rome, funding opulent cathedrals and extravagant lifestyles for the clergy, while the masses suffered, their souls held in a stranglehold of guilt and perpetual debt. Art, science, and literature would not have flourished in the same way. The Renaissance, fueled by the questioning spirit of the Reformation, might have been stifled. Galileo Galilei, forced to recant under the Catholic Church's oppressive dogma, could have been just one name in a long list of scientific minds silenced forever. The freedom to question, explore, and innovate would have been suffocated under the stringent doctrine of the Church. Europe's intellectual growth could have been severely stunted, leaving the continent lagging behind in scientific advancements. Politically, the landscape of Europe would have been vastly different. Monarchs, kept in line by papal authority, might have avoided the religious wars that tore the continent apart. However, this tenuous peace would come at the cost of absolute submission. Any notions of democracy or republicanism might have been strangled in their infancy, replaced by divine right monarchies and unchallenged ecclesiastical control. The lack of such conflicts might seem like a positive outcome, but consider the trade-off in human freedom and political evolution. The age of exploration, spurred on in part by the competition between Catholic and Protestant nations, could have taken a different trajectory. Without Protestant England's naval dominance, the Spanish and Portuguese empires might have extended their control unchallenged. The colonial conquests, already brutal and devastating, could have been even more relentless without the balancing force of opposition, leading to even greater exploitation and suffering for the indigenous populations of the Americas, Africa, and Asia. The social reforms rhetoric inspired by Protestant ideals, such as the emphasis on literacy and individual scripture reading, would have been absent. Universal education might have been delayed by centuries, leaving generations trapped in ignorance, uneducated and subservient to clerical and noble classes. The profound cultural shift towards personal responsibility and moral accountability would have been suppressed, keeping the populace in a perpetual cycle of dependency and obedience. Furthermore, the Protestant work ethic, which is often credited with laying the groundwork for modern capitalism and economic prosperity in the Western world, would be non-existent. Economic systems might have remained feudalistic, with little opportunity for social mobility. The Industrial Revolution, propelled by individual entrepreneurial spirit and innovation, might have had a delayed or fundamentally different emergence, drastically altering the modern world's economic landscape. In a world without the Protestant Reformation, the Enlightenment might have been a faint glimmer rather than a blinding dawn. Concepts like human rights, freedom of speech, and secular governance might remain foreign, stifled under centuries of ecclesiastical rule. Literary giants like Voltaire, Rousseau, and Locke might have been silenced, their revolutionary ideas left unwritten and unvoiced. Europe and the broader world could have remained in an intellectual dark age, a millennium where reason and critical thought were subjugated to unyielding religious orthodoxy. The ripple effects extend far beyond Europe. The American Revolution, inspired in part by Reformation-influenced ideas of liberty and self-governance, might never have taken place. The quest for independence and the creation of a nation founded on principles of freedom and equality might have been but a fleeting dream. The global influence of America, both culturally and politically, might have been drastically different, altering the course of world history dramatically. As the fabric of reality tears, consider the humanitarian impacts. Slavery, unchecked by dissenting voices advocating for equality, might have persisted unchallenged for even longer. Social justice movements might have taken centuries more to emerge and gain momentum, leaving deep scars on the human condition. In conclusion, without the Protestant Reformation, the world as we know it would be profoundly different, characterized by deep social, political, economic, and intellectual repression. The trajectory of history would shift into a starker, more oppressive timeline, depriving humanity of advancements and freedoms that we now hold dear.